Well, I just finished episode 7, and if Alicent really did kill her son Aemond, then I'm gonna have to eat my words from last episode's review, where I said that would clearly never happen. Yeah, I was not expecting that to happen at all, certainly not in the next episode. So the jury's still out, though, on what exactly happened. I think she poisoned him, and clearly he's, messed up in some way, but who knows if he's gonna die. Maybe she's gonna make it look like she killed him, I don't know. Time will tell on what really happened. Props to this episode, because they did go there, and they went there a few different times and with a few different characters. The last few episodes had been kind of meandering and wandering around between it felt like 10, 12 different characters, checking in with everybody just once or twice. And you can't really go very deep. You can't really have a complete character arc. This episode, though, was much more focused. We stayed focused on a handful of characters, but mostly the main characters and then a couple of other side ones. And we checked in with each of them several times, 5, 6 times. There's a couple of side characters we only checked in once or twice. That was fine. There wasn't a whole lot going on with them. And as long as it stays focused enough, check in several times with at least a couple of characters, then I feel like we're progressing at the right pace with at least our main characters, and that's a good thing. The pace is still pretty slow. The first few episodes of this season I felt like were fast-paced, action-packed, and were quite good. And then the last few episodes have just kind of slowed everything to a halt, and this one is still pretty slow. It ended with a little bit of a whimper. I'm a little concerned. We should be ramping up towards the season finale next week, so I'm a little concerned that the season finale might end a little underwhelming, but I mean, we'll see. We'll find out, and I'll be here to review it. And then I'm also going to do an entire podcast episode on this season, as well as a series, and I'm going to talk Game of Thrones with a buddy of mine who's a bit of a super fan. So stay tuned for that. But as far as this episode goes, I liked it more than the last few, mostly because it was more character driven, it stayed more focused, and we got to go deeper with each of our lead characters. We got a little bit more growth, a little bit more knowledge, a little bit more of their relationships. I like that we're seeing Aegon a little bit. I like that we saw Aemond quite a bit this episode. I mean, the dude was dreaming of boning his mom only in the Game of Thrones world, right? So yeah, we got to see maybe more of him than we wanted to. But he's a captivating character for sure. He reminds me a bit of Joffrey, but he's a lot more capable and a little less sniveling. Plus, the actor's playing him really well. Kind of walks this line of being totally detestable, but also a little likable. He does it really, really well. So I also like the dragon fight. Anytime you see dragons hurt each other, it's kind of sad in a way, but it's also really cool. It was a pretty good dragon fight. I liked how the humans had their verbal altercation and then the dragons backed them up physically, pretty much the only way they know how to speak, right? So there was some good stuff going on in this episode. Overall, I liked it more than the last few, which I appreciate, because I don't want to hate on this show. I very much want to like this show, and I usually do. Again, I'm nitpicking most of the time when I'm finding things wrong with it, because overall it is a really good show. It's a really well-made show. The Game of Thrones is the standard, and I think that's fair to compare this to Game of Thrones. It is a Game of Thrones spinoff. It's a prequel or whatever, and we've seen what this team is capable of doing. Game of Thrones was an amazing show. Obviously everybody has a different opinion on how it ended, and that's perfectly fine. I wasn't a huge fan. I didn't think the ending was amazing, but I also didn't think it was quite as bad as most people thought. But this series, when it's great, it's just as great as most of Game of Thrones. But when it's bad, it's much worse. It's got a lower floor. A lot of the characters aren't as rich. There's no Tyrion. This series lacks some of the intriguing characters that Game of Thrones has. Overall, pretty good episode, and I'm excited to see how the season ends. I will be here to review it, so I will see you then.